And it's kind of scary. It's kind of freaking me out. Welcome back to the Solomon-ac, guys. This is a different angle, as you've noticed, because I'm going to do something very different for this video, and it's kind of scary. It's kind of freaking me out. I think that with all the things I've been doing, I wanted to try to give my commentary not in a voiceover lane on. I wanted to do it while I'm actually making the stuff. So this is a testament, this is a test is what I mean, to see if I can, walk and chew gum here, I guess. And I'm excited, kind of worried, we'll see. But this is going to be the last FAERE on this piece of excellent paper that has just been capturing my imagination. And I figured, hey, we can do something a little different for it. I think this is going to be fun. And yeah, okay. So, we are floating up here, and then we are basically going to be set onto this here lamp that is just hanging over this piece. And I just gotta set this thing. There's this stupid autofocus that the newer iPhones do, which is very annoying. Crazy. Well, anyway. Okay, so this is gonna be the Frog Fairy, and this is a theory, but I'm thinking, and part of what I want to do is just kind of let loose and have fun. And I'm thinking if I can pull this off the way I'm thinking, then we will have something that is a little more freewheeling and loose, and we'll see if all that exploring through this year's epic FAERE paid off, where I can just kind of do that. So what's happening here is, now there's no real myth, first of all, in the lore of the good people of any frog fairies that I could find. So I believe that this is meant to be just a fun prompt, and so I'm playing with a little reference here. And I have to say, I was this is another one where I was kind of not looking forward to it, but then when I thought of an idea, and I'm thinking a frog on one of those really little mushrooms. And so got this, and so far my objective is kind of paying off. This guy is coming together, or gal, I don't know what it is yet, but I suspect it will reveal itself soon. And frogs, man, they're so captivating. I remember growing up, my little brother and I think we had this particular summer or something, or spring, I don't know, where we just got really into catching rain frogs. And I remember we had one of those 5-gallon buckets of them. And we got into catching rain frogs and pollywogs. And it was pretty exciting. You just felt like you could... I mean, my dad was a hunter, so I think in some way you almost felt like you were doing what he does or something. I mean, we were letting him go, but it was pretty wild to hear them outside. And they just go nuts. And they were just these bright green rain frogs. And it just gave you this sense of accomplishment when you caught so many. I mean, I think we had like maybe close to 50 of the little guys in that bucket. And I don't even remember how I caught them, because I definitely had like physical boundaries as a kid. I was not one of those kids that liked to handle frogs and bugs and spiders and any of that. But I liked to catch them. I think they were basically just kind of like some kind of containment or trap that we used. But so every FAERE I'm always putting like a mushroom in. So at some point, I've done FAEREs where there was a mushroom in every single one of them. I've also done, like this year, it was, it popped up once with the fly algric mushroom. And now when I'm thinking of it, I could have maybe put a frog fairy in there. But no, I think this guy's going to be pretty fun. So that's pretty much what I want for this sketch. I think I think this will be kind of fun. You'll have some little wings on this one. And I almost don't want to make the wings like too logistical. I think that'll kind of take the fun out of it. So we'll do this. I think maybe I'll put a moon here or something. Okay. So I'm going to do another angle. Hope you guys don't mind, for the ink here. And I think you can pretty much make out what's going on, or you'll be able to at least. But I think I have kind of stated in previous videos that I'm endeavoring to have a little more fun with the fountain pen. I cherish it. I love it. It's really, I think, what kick-started me back into wanting to create and draw in a whole new way. But I felt like some of my pieces were kind of striving to outdo each of the previous ones. And I just felt like there was getting to be less fun involved. And I wanted to kind of return to a sketchbook kind of feel and find the fun, find the comedy, find the joy in improvisation and that kind of storytelling in ink. And I felt like I was getting too intense and too austere. Maybe that's the right word. I'm looking for some kind of word, but so when I'm doing an ink drawing, I tend to be very careful how much of the sketching process I give over to the pencil, when at the end of the day it's just going to be an undersketch. So I think it's important to jump around and not get too caught up in one side of the drawing. And that's certainly what I'm intending with this one. And even this stage, even though I just said I like to leave a lot of the sketching to the ink, this is going to be, at least as far as I know, a little more painting centric. So I'm kind of being mindful to just, I guess, be psychically in tune with who is going to paint this, and are they going to be really annoyed that I took some liberties with the pen that I didn't need to. On the other hand, this is coffee that I'm going to paint with, and you'll get beautiful details with coffee, but you can't exactly be as detailed with coffee as you can with most of the other paints, which is why I really enjoy, I guess that if someone were to say, then why are you even doing coffee? And I think part of it is because if you let enough of the piece depend on the feel that coffee can give, and then the other mediums won't exactly get in the way, they'll just kind of enhance it. For instance, if I know I'm going to add gouache later, which it is a high probability, I'll just be doing accents of gouache. That, I think, is the trick. That's how you know you kind of did what you set out to do, because you don't need to rely all over the painting on gouache. You're just hitting it where it needs it. And I think at first it's important to make that distinction, but I do love the world of fairies and mushrooms. And I think I'm not going to ink these wings at all. I'm going to leave them so that they can have a more ethereal quality. I intend definitely for that to be gouache. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to do right now with the ink. That wasn't much at all. How about that? And let's see. I guess I'm seeing where there will be some points where I want to do some time lapses. But so now we're going to add the coffee, and I am not sure if I want to do the wings yet. Sometimes it's best to just err on the side of conservatism, and I feel like sometimes the page is like this jam session with my mind, and sometimes you just kind of give it time to figure itself out, and you realize you're figuring yourself out. So my dad loved mushrooms. He was a specialist. He could really spot the ones He was like a true hippie. He would get out into the mountains and he'd come back with just the nastiest looking mushrooms. And I hated them. I couldn't stand the taste. They just weren't for me. And so I'm gonna do a moon right here. This is the thing, is when I'm doing this flat surface, I never know how the coffee is going to dry. But later, I got into mushrooms, which is kind of an amazing thing when it's like, it just feels like your dad is laughing at you. and I was really a fan of shiitake mushrooms, but and I loved to cook them. I had this brief period where I was just very kind of lost, and I was vegetarian for about 5 years, which, I needed to learn that lesson, I guess, but man, I just look at it as such a waste of life. A waste of living my best life. And I think it was like 3 or 4 of those years I was in New York City. And if you ever been in New York City, I mean, being a vegetarian there is just so damn awful and tragic. So I'm going to play with the texture on these caps here. I love this kind of dippling method. I find it very relaxing, and I'm probably going to be doing this on all over in the section that I just did once that's dry. And I will probably find parts of this video where I just kind of stop talking and I just speed it up. So it's relaxing for me to make all these. It's tedious for you to watch them, but I think it's also kind of, for the right person, it's like Zen watching this and maybe hearing my soothing voice. But it's really interesting how your body sometimes is telling you something. Going back to my initial distaste for mushrooms, and yes, I've had the magic mushrooms, I've had the psychedelics. I remember a memorable night running through a cornfield on a full moon with psychedelics, and those were some good shrooms. I mean, they're like one of the most foul tasting things. I was always like, man, I thought I hated mushrooms, but eating shrooms is like awful. I would just eat them straight. Later I learned, no, man, you go and you get pizza and then you put it on the pizza. Ah, that makes sense. What kind of friends did I have? They were holding out on me there. Hey, aren't these looking great? I'm actually kind of liking this, letting the film roll. But it was strange years later when I was in New York, and I'd gotten hooked on stir-frying shiitake mushrooms, and I had them like every night. And then I suddenly one day just stopped being able to digest them. Like I'd eat and it was like my guts were tied up in knots or something. And I cut those out and I was good. And then later I went and for something totally different, I went and I saw like an Ayurvedic doctor And he had given me a list of general foods or drinks and or to stay away from. And mushrooms were on there. And I was thinking, yes, I will gladly do that. That sounds like a great idea. And I pretty much took it to mean that I was always trying to tell myself something. Another food, it was the exact same situation, was bananas. I have never liked bananas. I think they're disgusting. I like them maybe if I am like eating, like I like them if they're sliced up and maybe they're in pancakes or in hot cereal or something, but generally they're not for me. And I'm gonna move to this little frog here now. Hope you guys don't mind this angle. I am enjoying it. And if you're thinking, hey, I didn't come here to hear about your thoughts on bananas, I apologize in advance. I think it is valuable information that you probably need to learn about me as we continue this getting to know each other. And let's see, I think I'm going to go here. I try usually to stay away from lines like I'm doing here. You see, these are all lines versus these are all drops. I find the drops, it's easier to control how things go. Whereas the way this is going to dry, one, it might dry on this side, it might dry on that side, so it's going to be an accident either way. But also, it's more wetness, so it's going to take a bit longer. But sometimes, it just dries in a way where you're just kind of vindicated. And the thing with painting like this, and I think part of why I do it, is because there's just something so unknown about it. Soon I'll be back doing gouache paintings, and they'll do what I want them to do. But I think that part of why I will feel an improvement, and I almost always do when I do those, is because of the way I kind of have to use my head with coffee stain painting. It's a tricky business. So he's starting to get some definition here. This little guy, this little gal. Who knows? I might add eyelashes. We'll see. But okay, so this one's going kind of a little quicker than I thought. We'll see. Famous words. Okay, so I'm going to do something kind of similar to what I did in the last one with the owl. And this is, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look, but I do know these are going to dry much lighter. And I'm hoping it's just going to give this very strange kind of mystical quality, but we will see. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up.
Went from 60s to 100 really quick. It was also due to the ETS, due to Wall Street FOMO in. Now we're seeing the exact opposite. They are fearful and they are selling off. Most of them do not believe in Bitcoin long term. They have just bought. It's obvious now that they bought it and treat it as like a risk-on asset. It was just the greatest trade for them. So that's why they bought it. Now they're selling off, and it just sucks. It really does suck right now near term, man. I do think there's a lot of uncertainty. So by the time you guys watch this, I don't know if if Bitcoin would have filled the CME gap or not, but that's the latest, guys. Now, am I still bullish? Is this bull run still ongoing? The answer is yes and yes, even though right now I may not seem like it. In case you're wondering what I am, I'm at a Karate Combat ceremonial weigh-in right now. But yeah, it sucks there too. There's no doubt about it. I'm not gonna.
Okay, so now we are in this will be the darkest shade of coffee. And this one right here. And you can see there really isn't that much left there. This is kind of a neat moment where, as FAERE gets going, and particularly the darkest one is, always have to be careful here, but the darkest one starts to, saturate or coagulate. I wouldn't say this is coagulated, but as you're using up the paint and day after day, the moisture is slowly drying up and you're getting almost like a reduction of coffee, which is great because it just gets so wonderfully dark. And it's just wonderful to work with. And that one is certainly here. And every year I feel there's something so tedious yet so new. I don't really know any other artists who really just go into coffee. So there isn't that much to reference. But it's also, I think, if only because I'm combining it with other mediums like drawing and like gouache paint for like some really just kind of effective highlights. I think that's why coffee remains so inspiring to me. And I think it's important to, whenever you are diving deep into something, to just keep focusing on what you want and don't focus too much on what other people are doing or what they usually do. Plus, I just love coffee. I think it's just so beautiful. It smells amazing. I think to be able to paint with it, that's a beautiful thing. So. So, with this part, I'm just making sure that, like I said, the kind of dippling method here, or the pointillism that I'm doing, where I'm just coloring places and shading places with lots of little puddles. Because coffee's so unruly, I found, I think it was in 2020, that if I did this kind of dippling method, then I'll be able to control things more. So you're getting, sometimes you're getting like washes, like with watercolor. Other times it's other times you're doing this very kind of controlled dippling method. I don't know about you, but I'm loving where this little one is going. And I was half tempted to not even give this frog wings, because I just feel that frogs, like foxes, are just, I don't know, they're like little wizards. I saw a frog in the rain the other day, and it's just amazing the way it's like, its throat just puffs up and it just makes this huge sound. I'm always taken by animals that are able to communicate over such long distances because they are so loud. It's kind of amazing. So, man, yeah, he's already getting close, which is pretty exciting. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take some little risks here, and I've got this great opportunity. There's nothing like when you come back to a fully dried coffee painting, because then I can play with some more layering of new droplets. So I'm basically going to do my best to kind of add drops in the places between the dried droplets here. So I'm going to be attempting to get this mushroom looking even darker, and parts of the frog. So I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to look, like if this is indeed what I want to be darker, but I'm trying with this piece. Part of why I'm just letting the camera roll while I actually talk over it is I don't want to argue with myself. I want to just paint and go and see. Sometimes I get the suspicion that the overthinking gets in the way. And so there's a part of me that just wants to plan less. So I'm using this little piece as an experiment with that theory. So, but so far I think it's looking pretty neat. Let's see. So next, what I want is this guy. I want him a bit darker, and because at the end of the day, the frog is the one that needs to stand out. So I will want the biggest contrast of light and shadow to be with him. And it's kind of, this part is being the underbelly. With the frog is usually, I believe, lighter. So I've gotten some nice shading with this, but I do want to make sure that the outside of him is definitely getting the darker side, because to survive, a frog would need to have the lightest part of him or her underneath. It's the, good old camouflage. That's how it works. So, but I suspect that I'm getting closer and closer to this guy, and I'll be able to maybe just, the intention is to just hit some accents with the gouache. I think frogs are, as I've said before, there's just nothing like them. They're, the amphibious nature is really special, and like whenever you watch them just kind of like climb onto things, and they look both awkward, and they look like just kind of in command of their strange long limbs. But the way that, I love the way, like when you just see a frog that's just totally still, and they're just, I don't know, just taking things in and observing. It just feels like they know something, which I just feel like is what a fox has in its eyes, or a cat. And they're so patient, the way they just kind of, like, part of their hunting. And just whenever you see them just sitting, and then this hapless insect flies by, and then their mouth opens, and this impossible tongue just whips out in this like lash and just grabs it. brings it in, the frog closes its mouth, and that poor insect is never to be heard from again. So, okay, and now I think I'm going to just get these other mushrooms and then we'll figure out the sky. I'm going to go into a time lapse here. Okay, so this is going to be kind of fun. I like to think this is the finishing touch, but sometimes it just reveals other stuff you need to do. But now we're going to add just a little bit of gouache here. I always feel like there's just a really nice payoff. So I'm not sure if I'm going to just keep the moon like this or if I want to... Yeah, I might... We'll see. I think one thing that is going to be happening is as the frog gets their highlighting going. Actually, I think I want a smaller brush here, just because I'm seeing a little bit of details. But as this frog gets the highlights, it'll be giving away more what I want to happen around it. I want to be careful that I don't lose sight of what's important. The frog fairy is the most important thing. And the lighting on this frog fairy especially. As I've said many times, Ghost in the Gaslight has become, among many things, a lot of opportunities to study light and shadow. And I absolutely love that. I think it's just so important when you're understanding how an object sits in space. But to zoom out philosophically, you should live in your light. You should do the things you love. You should do the things you're good at. You should do the things that help people. If that's creating something, usually it has to do with creation. I think wherever you find some degree of creativity, your inner light, what you were meant to do, I think Dharma? Whatever it is, it's not far off. So... And I just get such a kick out of all of this that I'm like, yeah, look at how much fun this is. I'm on the right track here. And it is a challenge, considering everything I'm always doing, to constantly just keep going and to keep having fun. Just keep finding the fun. But I think we're all meant to do something that we love to do, and take it to a point where, you know, it's kind of challenging to be fun, and that's where you're going up against whatever the next level is. And I feel like that's where you're like kind of learning the depths of your professionalism? Can you keep it going? You know, so. And play with this a little. I want to get a little bit of the sparkle, the twinkle in the eyes, but I also this little one is facing away from the moon, so I always want to be mindful. I wanted the moon in the picture, but you know, what do you do when you've got this frog, this mystical fairy frog? So now I'm just going to do a little bit of like this backlighting. So that we tie this mystical creature to the moon behind. And now the moment I've been waiting for, which is getting these wings going. And so far coming up good. This is kind of that point where I'm thinking, I wasn't sure at all what I was going to do with those wings. I was like, at first, like, do I just not put any coffee on them so they appear lighter? Do I put some on so that maybe I can have like more effects to play with? And I am kind of glad that I did. But I think I want these to kind of be catching a lot of moonlight here. And just get that beautiful membrane effect of fairy wings. And as I keep using the gouache and coffee have a thing in common, which is that they'll both be affected when they're touched with more water. And as they're kind of mingling together, they're both kind of affecting each other. That's kind of what I'm kind of banking on with those wings there, that as I keep painting and I don't keep refreshing the gouache, it's going to get this kind of ghostly element to it. See, I think that I'll just do a touch on this one so that they look like they're, you know, made from the same thing. So and I think I'm gonna go for one of those really just, I don't know, more ghostly moons. And where it's just kind of, it just seems to be lighting up the whole sky around it in a way. Or just this sky in its section, I guess. So yeah. And I think that this moon will that's looking a bit more like a ghostly moon there. Do want to just get the middle more. And then I think I'm gonna hit these mushrooms, the tops of them. That's one of the things when you're doing moonlight and you're doing a piece like this where the light kind of has it's almost like a bluish quality to it, and I think that can be really great for moonlight, because moonlight is just a very strange kind of non-warmth, non-day kind of light. So I think if you're doing a painting with daylight in it, I think sometimes it's best to try to leave as much of the paper underneath as possible. But when you paint over a color with white, it's going to just affect the way the white is, and I feel like it's just going to have this strange muted quality, which is very strange on a light, because how can light be muted? But moonlight, on the other hand, is just something totally different. So, okay, so I think this one is pretty much where I want it to be. I just want to, if I do some light on both sides of this particular mushroom, it's gonna bring out the shadow that the frog is casting more. So I figure after that, all there's left to do is get the light highlighting the contours of the frog. So and now our frog is hanging out in the moonlight. Hey, he's living his, or she, whatever, living their best life. Love this. Okay. I think maybe if I can just add a little more of the moon, because I just want that to really pop. Tricky with gouache is your lights won't dry as light as when they're wet, and your darks won't dry as dark as when they're wet. Otherwise, there's so much to love about gouache. But yeah, I think this is looking good. This is about where I want it to be. I might just, this is getting a little nitpicky here, but I do want to just blend these really dark colors, because right now my frog fairy is just not quite blending in with the shadows. I love how dark I got this though. That is very impressive to do with coffee painting. You really have to hit a saturation point. But yeah, I think my guy is pretty much there, except I do want that damn mouth, that damn under lip. Because I feel like that really brings out the frogness, and I should probably get this back here. Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these were the tools, and it appears we have just discovered a fairy frog in the moonlight using the art of coffee stains with the assistance of some gouache. And I'll move this light out of the way here so we get the full effect. And this is our frog fairy. Nice ghostly frog fairy. Thank you for watching. I'm sure this one might fetch a nice little story in the not too distant future. Well, thanks for watching. This was a pretty fun, different kind of experiment. I hope you enjoyed the process, the different way to experience the process. Like I said, always trying to find new ways of sharing the work and the creative side in here. So, of course, there are links in the description. Feel free to check out the website. Making more swag pretty soon. And of course, there is the Substack, which is where stories like this one will appear and do appear. And link is in there. And of course, feel free to sign up to the Inbox of Curiosities so you can receive emails and all kinds of ghostly bulletins. I am striving to make the Substack a little more like a newsletter as well, on top of having all the stories. So I would very much love to hear your thoughts as well. So leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell. All right, take care, you beautiful, haunted romantics.